I made and uploaded an animation every day for a month, and here they are. I'm gonna get into how that went, but first, some context. Basically, a friend challenged me to do this. All right, I think that's enough context. The first one that I made was this egg golf one here. Now, the reason that I went with this egg idea in particular and not any of the other egg-related ideas that I have is actually not very interesting, so I'm not gonna talk about that. But this one, you might notice, relies a lot on effects animation. That's what this here is. This is a kind of effects animation. Now, the only effects animation that I'd done before this was a paint splash effect that I did over the course of 1 week. So naturally, I was very hesitant to make this, but this was an idea that I'd been excited to make since before the idea of this challenge even came up. So I decided, what the heck, I'm gonna do it anyways. And I then proceeded to spend way too much time on a character design that I didn't end up having time to use. So that's about it for this one. But there is a different one where basically I went outside to think because I was trying to come up with an idea for it, and I ended up getting my socks completely soaked in dew. And I had this idea. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so the idea for this one was 2 toothbrushes, and you might be wondering how that has anything to do with wet socks. But if you were paying attention, then you might have noticed that I actually did explain that, and the relation was that I thought of this while my socks were wet. But what I want to talk about here is this character design. This is based off of an older character design of mine combined with another even older character design of mine. But it's very streamlined for animation. Like you'll see the hair right here. There's like this one shape and this shape and this shape. It's just a handful of lines here. And then for the eyes, there's like an inner line and an outer line. And then it's just 2 segments for the inner part. This is very streamlined. The reason that was very important to me is not only because it makes it way less work, but because it makes it way less work, which means that I can actually use a character design and not just a sketch for my animations, which I only have 1 day to make. Now, another cool thing about this one is that this is the first one where I actually colored it in at all. It is also one of the worst ones with color, if not the worst. So I will I'll go grab another one. On to number 7. So with this one, like the egg golf one, the first thought that came to mind was maybe this isn't the best idea to make this in a day. And honestly, I'm surprised that I was able to make this in a day. I am crazy. If you take anything away from this video, if you take one thing away, please let it be that I am crazy. The Painterly effect, by the way, on this teapot is from a Southern Shoddy tutorial, specifically this one here. This actually, now that I think about it, might not be the best example for color though, because it's first person, you can't actually see Feli's character here. I'll grab another one. Okay, better example, number 21. So with this one, I was trying to keep it simple. That's why there isn't a lot of movement here, but it does a good job of showing you what I'm talking about with color versus the toothbrush one. So with the toothbrush one, obviously there was no post-production, no compositing as it's called in Blender, but then with this one there is, and you can see the before and after. If you are interested in learning how to do this kind of stuff, learning how to make stuff look pretty, let me know. I would be happy to make a tutorial. Actually, wait, there's another one that I want to make a tutorial on. Hold up. Okay, so this is the other one that I wanted to do a tutorial on, specifically the sea foam effect here. If I pause it, like these cells and the little bubbles. This is something that there actually aren't a ton of good tutorials on. So if you are interested, let me know. If I do make tutorials, they will go on a separate channel, by the way. This channel in particular is just for the animations themselves. This is what the actual file looks like, by the way. Not at all blue or underwater looking, but it actually took like a good bit of work to make it look underwater and correct. Like over here, when it's like this, yes, it looks underwater, but no, you can't tell what's going on. That's not at all what I wanted. So I had to do a bunch of extra work to make it both look like she's underwater and like you can in fact see her under the water. If you're interested in learning any of that, let me know. But I also did do another one that was underwater, and that one's interesting in a very different way. Number 19, which I realize is the one after the last one. Sorry, I got a little out of order there. This one is based off of the Weird Al Off the Deep End album cover. When I first went to make this one, the thought that came to mind was, hey, maybe this isn't the best idea for how much time I have, but what the heck, do it anyways. This one took by far the longest at 3 days. I have no idea why I ever thought, I have no idea why I ever thought that I'd be able to do this in one day. I thought like, hey, this isn't too many movements. Maybe I could do it if I'm quick. I've done ones with a handful of movements before. Thing is, this is not only a lot of movements, but a lot of movements with color and underwater. So they are slower and they take more frames, which I failed to realize when I had this idea. So like I said, this one took 3 days. The first day, obviously ran out of time, had to make something quick. The day after that, I was gone all day, so I had to do another rushed one. And then the day after that, I was like, okay, I've got a whole second day to make this one. Surely I have time to do clean line art. I did not have time to do clean line art, and I ended up rushing it and not taking breaks, which naturally led me to have wrist pain, the worst wrist pain yet. The first one that gave me wrist pain was number 6 here. This one took 11 hours, and it wasn't like a slow, calm 11 hours. This was full sprint the whole time with basically no breaks, double the frame rate of the other ones at 15 frames a second instead of 7.5 for 7 seconds long, making it one of the longer ones, and with basically no frame reuse. So naturally, this one resulted in wrist pain. And that didn't go away right away, so I had to lean more and more into 3D with less drawn animation, especially over the following days. The one right after this was actually the teapot one that I showed you earlier, and there were some other cool ones that I made in the days following it, as you can see here. So the next one that gave me wrist pain was this one right here, Shadow Boxer. I had been getting tired of doing 3D and I wanted to draw. The ring in the background is 3D, but the rest of it is just wrist pain. I probably shouldn't have made this one. This was another one that was like, hey, I wonder if I even have enough time to make this. And then the day after this one was when I started Off the Deep End. So at this point, it's already taken 2 days. I have the worst wrist pain yet, and I'm denying the reality that I have no time to finish as the end of the day draws near. Eventually I come to my senses and I'm like, all right, what do? I can't just make something new that's drawn. I'm worried about injuring myself, and I can't think of anything 3D to make either. I'm not particularly good at 3D. So I cave in and I upload an older animation that I'd made previously. This is why there's an asterisk in the title. Yes, we do a little cheating. But this was the only old one that I was able to find, so there is no more room for cheating after this. And after this, I have to just keep things really simple, which contributed to some of the later ones being boring. For example, the can one, or the soccer practice one. Now the soccer practice one, actually the idea isn't what's boring here. The execution is what's boring. It's just a sketch and no character design, that's it. And like, yeah, that works, but that's kind of not the reason that I'm doing this challenge. If they were all this simple, then I wouldn't have run into so much trouble. This would have been easy. But I also wouldn't have even started the challenge to begin with. If I had to keep them this simple, no character design, no nothing, then that's boring, right? Experimenting is what made this fun and what made me want to do this to begin with. Like, I didn't spend all my time working on animations. I spent some of my time developing tools that I used in my animations. So in reverse order, the last one I made was a tool to make coloring several times faster because Blender's built-in fill tool sucks. And all it does is snap colors to lines. That one I made towards the end of working on Off the Deep End. That was on the last day. Would have been nice to have it sooner, but we take what we can get. That one led to all of the animations after it, or more of the animations after it, having color. I also made a tool for making trees. If I skip ahead, you can see when I had the foliage here, and when I applied the actual modifier. I tried and failed at making a rain effect. I instead had to use this overlay on this one. It was going to be a compositor only rain effect that like used the depth pass to integrate with the scene and camera coordinates and like the normal pass and stuff to like make splashes and the angle of the rain falling and everything correct. But then as I worked on it, I just realized that a particle system is better. And last but not least, and actually first because I'm going in reverse order, grass. If you made it this far, comment a food that you can eat, like Lady and the Tramp. Here's my list. I have wanted to make this grass for like 4 years, and believe me, this is just a proof of concept. It's based off of Tessellator's grass, which you can see here. It is pixel art, but from the moment that I first saw it, I wanted to make it in 3D in a non-pixel art style and use it for animation. And at first I thought I'd have to use like a custom rendering engine or pipeline or something like that, or use some weird ray tracing hack, but I managed to figure out a way to do this just by faking lighting and then transferring the data in geometry nodes. That's part of why the lighting doesn't look right, is because there are no actual shadows going on here. So it still definitely needs work to make the shadows and other stuff work correctly, but this is another thing that if you want a tutorial on, once I've put more work into this, I'd be happy to do that. I'll probably spend like a week solid just working on this grass at some point in the future. Freaking love grass. This one. Wait, did I already do this one? I feel like I already did this one. Let me see. Yep, it's on the timeline. All right, never mind. This one. So let's start by showing my references. So this is kind of the vibe I was going for. Maybe this is a good reference here. Just, you know, I don't have like exactly the vibe that I made here, partially because I realized that I didn't have enough different like of the right kinds of textures to really make that happen. So I sort of pivoted a bit, but basically I just did a bunch of cool effects. I've never done this many effects in one thing before. Fun fact, this was also my first time doing like an actual proper walk cycle. Hey, this is future me. This is almost true, except that I've actually done several walk cycles before. Thanks, future me. Why did I think that this was my first walk? Analytics. That's right, I'm showing you my numbers. As you can see, I got quite a few more views than I got before, since I actually started uploading again. I also got a handful of subscribers, which is kind of cool. Here over on the content tab, we can see, well, first off, here's how many views I was generally getting. Was not really a ton per day. There was one day that kind of spiked up a bit, but there were generally around maybe, shoot, I'm getting like 50 views on a single day. That's actually kind of crazy. I didn't realize that. But yeah, that's cool. The engaged views, by the way, is the metric that actually matters though. So I'm actually getting more like, I don't know, 16, maybe the highest was 33. This is how views on shorts used to be counted until they switched it over so that anybody who sees any amount, even as they're swiping by, counts as a view. And the people who actually watch it count as an engaged view. So this is what actually matters. If you like move the mouse out of the way of here, like wrong, then it stays, and it stays while you scroll, and it's super annoying. So you have to like carefully move it off the side. Yeah, I guess we'll take a look at the audience tab. The monthly audience has been trending upwards. That means that I believe more different people have been seeing stuff, which is very nice to see. I am glad this stuff's kind of going good. Lots of new viewers. Some of those are my family members who hadn't really looked at the channel before. Yeah, it's surprisingly good, because like earlier on into the challenge, I was like, dude, these things are getting like 400%. Like here, let me open up Campfire's analytics. This one got on average, like at the beginning, is like people watch this like 10 times on average, and like it's getting this really good retention, right? but it's not being shared. It's not being shown to people. It had like 20 views for the longest time. Or I guess this one in particular, you can see this gray section is what's typical for the channel. So this one in particular had more, but most of them stuck around. Like, see the typical in this period says 20 to 40. They were sticking around those lower numbers for a good while, and it's actually, I don't know, after the challenge is over, I'm noticing that they're still getting views and everything is still trending upwards, even if gradually. It's nice to see that I've been putting work into this and it's actually being seen by like some amount of people, even if it isn't like, oh, it's a 50 views, it's nothing. Like if you're looking at somebody else's channel and you see a video with 50 views, obviously you're like, that's nothing. I see videos, I see channels that have millions of views on their videos all the time. But when it's your own stuff, it's cool, even with the small numbers. The small numbers are big, okay? The small numbers are big. That's what she said. Anyways, this tab is useless. I'm gonna move away. Another thing that's might be cool to look at is the get an idea of like, hey, how close am I to making money? Newsflash, it's not close at all. So for subscribers, I have 116. You need at least 500. That's not something too unreasonable. I'm sure I'll eventually hit that. Then 3 video uploads in 90 days. Yeah, no, easy. I've uploaded 31 in the last month. And then, but then one of the following, I need 3,000 watch hours, and I have 8, or I need like 3 million short views. I have like under 500, because remember, this is counting the engaged views. So like, these are some crazy high numbers, it feels like, in order to reach eligibility. And from what I hear, even when you do reach it, there's like, you don't make anything really. It's like not much at all. So I'm not really concerned about making money off of YouTube, but it is kind of cool to like give you guys some perspective. People don't usually show their analytics. I'm showing them. You can see them. Interesting thing, by the way, Spotlight here being at the top, it wasn't at the top at the end of the challenge. I'm going to, okay, so at the end of the month would be January 31st. So that's here. This one had 74 views. Whoa, 74 views. And then this one, that's January 31st, this one had 47. Now, mind you, this one was uploaded way later, but it's kind of cool to see when they pass. So this one passed on, I believe it was February 5th. Here, this passes 80 views, whereas this one on February 5th is at 80 views. So that's when this one passes. By the way, Spotlight. So this one, you might notice, is incredibly simple. This was at the end of the challenge when I was really feeling it, and I guess I can get into some of that now. So the reason that this one is so simple is because it's part of the super color era here, which is a bit of a misleading title. A much more accurate title would be Everything Sucks. What's going on here? Why does everything suck? So basically, I'm more motivated and the process is more enjoyable when I feel like I'm pushing the limits of what I can do, which is why I often went for ideas that were too big to be doing in this challenge. And I also didn't take any days off, even though the challenge, as it was given to me by my friend, didn't actually require me to upload on Sundays. And that was because I wanted to be able to say that I made an animation every day for a month, and I wanted to be able to have that be this video's title. This combination of me pushing it too hard for the larger half of the challenge here, and then getting this wrist pain and having to simplify things even further, meant that I ended up getting into this spiral where I wasn't getting enough sleep at night. So I was exhausted every day, and I would take the morning to try and recover, to get myself to the point where I could even force myself to work on something. And then I would force myself to rush out an idea that I didn't want to make. I was constantly stressed. I was staying up late to finish, unhappy with the result, and then when I was done, I wasn't feeling any sort of sense of accomplishment or anything. It was just a little bit of relief that I finished, but really not that much relief, because guess what? I ate into my sleep time, and I'm eating into the next day. I'm going to be even more exhausted because I'm up so late, sometimes up till 3 a.m. There were twice actually that I was up that late. That's why so many of these later ones here, I'll bring them all in here. They're rushed and they're simple, and they're not really something that I'm happy with. And then this last week in particular was really bad because I was also very busy this week. So on Sunday, I was up till 3 a.m. working on this one, because the one that I was working on before for the earlier part of the day, I realized I didn't have enough time to finish. So I was up till 3 a.m. And then on Tuesday, I had D&D for 7 hours, by the way. And then after that, after that D&D session, I found out that on the 31st was a going away party for a friend who's moving out of state. A party that I expected to be in mid-February, and that I had committed to making posters and t-shirts for. And I hadn't started on it because, like I said, I expected it to be in February. So didn't have time to order t-shirts, but I did have time to make posters if I was quick. So I ended up making a poster that night after the D&D session. So this one ended up being very rushed, and then making another poster on the 29th. The posters turned out really good. I photoshopped his face into some movie posters. It was funny. And then to top it all off, I ended up getting sick. The last 4 of these in particular, I have no idea how I managed to do these at all. I was completely dead, well past the point of just waiting for it to be over. So on to the next challenge, which is to make weekly animations all the way from today through to the end of June, with the exceptions that I do not have to upload if I am making something for someone else that week, or if I get sick, or if I am traveling. So I may not always upload every week, but generally speaking, the challenge is to upload every week from now till the end of June. Like I said earlier, if there is one thing that you take away from this video, let it be that I am crazy.